Hello YouTube! Welcome to an account which is VIP 7 level 116. You're probably wondering, why are we here? This isn't the Turbo series, this isn't the VIP series. Well, it's the first account that I'm going to truly tear to pieces of 2024. Today I'm going to tell you a lot of mistakes that new players make that this account has made to educate you, my fellow citizens, about how to not play Idle Heroes, and hopefully you might learn something. This account, because he's level 116, has not passed and beaten campaign. This is completely normal. Not being level 130 means he can't unlock Void campaign. It means he can't go and do the Glory Challenge because he doesn't have the opportunity to use Tree of Origin things. This is fine. I am not going to judge him for the fact that his account is a low level. Instead, we're going to judge him for the fact he's VIP 7 and has spent well over $1,000 US. And I'm curious what that money went towards. So the first thing we're going to look at is the treasure train. You'd like to think if you've spent about $1,000, you've got yourself an established treasure train. 1.6 million in attack and 152 million in fixed HP. This is good. It means you haven't been a moron and you've actually invested in events that give you rewards that aid the treasure train, which of course helps your progress. That is good. And I'm not going to hold that against you. I think this is an excellent amount of things to have. And if we go look at his transcendence stuff in the festival treasures, we have the encapsulated memories, which gives 33.8% crit damage. Again, fantastic. And you didn't go for this one here that gives holy damage. You just prioritized the encapsulated memories. All of this is fine. You went for the finest hour recorder as well that gives all damage dealt. So far, so good. I cannot complain about this, as everything we see is correct decision making. So very well done for that. You have got a golden star and a sticker. However, it all goes downhill when you take a look at his heroes. We have an A-tier Lord of Fear Aspen. At first glance, you might think, wow, that's really good. And I agree, having yourself an A-tier Lord of Fear Aspen is fantastic. This has almost 4 million attack, 303 million HP, and great stats, Giant Killer, Defier, Armor Break. And you pulled that. He didn't even buy this. So straight up, dude's lucky. What we have right here then is a great account with a great hero. So why is he here to be flamed? What has he done wrong? Well, if you take a little look at his gem count is 9,000 gems, which isn't very high for someone that's VIP 7. We did recently, though, have an event that allowed us to spend a lot of gems on 6-star heroes. If you haven't seen that, I reviewed that event. You can go check it out for yourselves. But what I would expect from that, and that investment, is that he went ahead and bought 6 stars in the Light and Dark faction. You were able to get 5 6 stars for the Light and Darks. If you try to build a Lord of Fear Aspen, his major weakness is the fact that you really struggle to get his tenants. Because unfortunately for Lord of Fear Aspen, his tenants are mostly dark heroes. In tenant spot 1, it's Aspen or Drake. In tenant spot 2, it's Carry, until you get Scarlet Queen or Laura. In tenant spot 3, you kind of have to go with Onkiramaru because you can't really pick up the Amun-Ra. And for tenant spot 4, you have no choice but to go with Mockman, and Elena is your choice when you get to 3 Transcendence heroes, both of which require dark food. So already here, you need to have at least 3 10 stars in the dark faction. You need the ones for Aspen, you need the one for his tenant spot 1, and you need the one for his tenant spot 4. That's a lot of food to ask for a newer player. So when I go ahead and I take a look at this account, I'm surprised we don't have more dark heroes, because if I look at this here, I'm seeing an E5 carry. That's fine, right? She can be switched. But we've also got this Mockman. Where's Drake? That would be my question. Why do we have no one in tenant spot 1? Because without that, we're kind of in a situation where you're running an Aspen, but without any of the firepower of being a huge tenant. So I was like, hang on, why can't you do this? Where are your dark 6 stars? If you look at the bag, all of his light ones are here. The light ones are still on the account. So where the heck did the dark ones go? Well, I'll tell you where the dark ones went. My dude built a 10-star in the dark faction. He told me it was a normal Aspen. And then when he was asking for advice, some guy said, you don't need that Aspen right now. What that person meant was, you don't need Aspen, you should have Drake because you're limited on dark food. And when your dark food is limited, it's always better when you're building an Aspen to choose Drake. Now, normally, Aspen is a better tenant. He gives better stats and is better for your Lord of Fear Aspen in general. But Drake, because he's able to defense down an opponent, is much stronger. Lord of Fear Aspen wants to kill an opponent immediately to then trigger his active skill, which then wrecks the rest of the team. If his active skill doesn't get a kill, it doesn't hurt everybody else. So Drake enables this by stripping the defenses from the lowest HP hero. So when the friend of his said, hey, you don't need Aspen right now, that meant build Drake instead. Unfortunately, his friend is really bad at communicating, and this guy jumps to conclusions way too easy, so he fed 10-star Aspen because, quote, he didn't need it anymore. He literally took an entire 10 stars worth of dark food and fed it away. I can't believe you did this. And if he had that on the account, this account would be fantastic because we'd have Drake, we'd have Carry, we'd have Mockman, all at E5, all being tenants. Because what I'd do is get rid of either the Eloise or the Ticks, probably the Eloise, use her food to E5 a Dark Hero, and bish bash bosh, Bob's your uncle, you've got yourself all of your tenants for your Aspen. But unfortunately, we had all that potentially at our fingertips, and he screwed it up. So the only way you can fix this now is to use this carry when you get a Scarlet Queen Halora to build Mockman or whatever you need, Drake, Aspen, whatever fills the gap. But then you won't have carry on your account, which means you haven't got one of the best Dark Heroes in the game who can really, really help you in Dark Seal Land. It's really unfortunate, which is what free-to-play players have to do when they build an Aspen. They have to sacrifice the fact that they can no longer have a carry because they're limited on dark food. But imagine spending over $1,000 and having to do the pro strats of free-to-play players just to build an Aspen because you're a bozo who fed 10 stars worth of dark food away. Mega cringe. Mega cringe. But hey, you know what, guys? Advice to you, don't feed light and dark heroes in the early game because all you will do is ruin your opportunity to make progress in the future. If you want to build Lord of Fear Aspen, as we said, you need Dark Heroes. But if you want it to be different and go with Doom Terminator Vulcan, who is the second most popular first Transcendence hero, it's the same situation. Vulcan needs a light hero for himself, right? Or a dark hero. Probably the dark hero is better because it's less intensive on food. But for spot 2, you need Andrea or Eos. Both of those are light food. However, I could see why people would go for Geista if they're low on light food, but ideally Eos or Andrea are the better picks. For tenant spot 3, you kind of are forced to go with Azrael for the similar reason you're forced to go with Onkiramaru when it comes to Aspen. It's because you just don't have the light food to back it up. But tenant spot 4, that requires you to have DGN, right? Natalia, Doppelganger Girl. You need that as a light hero. So you got to get light heroes for Vulcan as well. It's kind of less intensive, but you still do need the 3. You need DGN, you need Andrea, and you need DTV. To have all of that, again, it's the same situation. 3 heroes from the light faction, all at 10 star. Very intensive. Make sure you do it. So folks, good luck if you are trying to build either of those heroes because you need the food. And don't do what this guy did and feed that stuff away. Now, second thing about this account, he's built an Aspen really, really early. And that weirds me out, because if you look at this account, to me, it's just an Eloise account, right? Like, everyone else can see that, surely. You've got Eloise, you've got Carrie, you've got Tix, you've got Onkiramaru. The Aspen was just a fever dream where he was like, oh, I got a giant killer, I've got to build it, oh my god. And you know what, that's fine, I understand why you would do that. But I would have at least just waited and done the glory challenge first, because at least then you'd have some Tree of Origin materials and you'd be able to build this Lord of Fear Aspen up. Granted, he's not level 130, so that's not even an option for him, but it does mean he's kind of stuck with an Aspen that doesn't really do anything and an account that doesn't really complement him very well. Eloise is bonkers, and you're not really taking advantage of that. Like, in the early game, when Tree of Origin isn't available, Eloise is like the best hero in the game. So I find it surprising that you've got her here, yet you're still favoring the Aspen. So what I personally would have done is just put that Aspen that was an A tier to one side and prioritize something else. And you know what the final thing he's done? The thing that I've been neglecting to mention, but I'm sure you've all noticed that's kind of cringe. It's this Queen right here. You might think, what's wrong with that? Surely he's going to build Scarlet Queen Halora as his next Transcendence hero. That's fine. Not really, because his Crystals of Transcendence are less than halfway there to another Transcendence hero. So what we have right now is a completely useless hero eating all your food needed to E5. You've even wasted Golden Spirit leveling this up, and you still are leveling this up, and you have no flipping Golden Spirit. Why is this here? It makes no sense. Because she's just sat there being really, really unhelpful for however long it's going to take you to get another 2.5 million crystals of transcendence. This isn't the Turbo series, my guy. You aren't just going to crap out millions of crystals very quickly by naturally playing the game. Obviously, if you're a cop man who chooses crystals of transcendence from spheres, then that's a different story, but you absolutely shouldn't be doing that. You should always go for stellar shards. So, really, it's going to take you quite some time to get that queen into a Scarlet Queen Halora, and in that time, this is going to be a completely useless hero and a waste of resources. Please tell me you haven't leveled up her stone. Good, you haven't. That's fine, at least. Now, let's grill his artifacts whilst we're here. He's got a Demon Bell? Good. You've got a Golden Crown? Good. Auspicious Lucky Cat? You know what? It's not that bad. Since it got nerfed, it's not as good as it could be, but I'd consider this just another crown, and it can be really useful on major damage dealers if you want to give them something that ramps them up but gives them defenses. So that's really nice. And that's your spare copy? Oh, yeah, because you've got a Radiant here, and let me guess, is there another one floating around as well somewhere? Maybe. You've got a Glittery Ruyi Scepter on carry? Okay, that's weird. But Ruyi Scepter is actually really good for Lord of Fear Aspen, so that's not a problem. And then you've got a fully upgraded Melodic Strings. You know what? Your artifacts aren't bad. You've got Demon Bells coming in, you've got a Lucky Cat almost finished, which is great. So you've got a defensive artifact, you've got an aggressive artifact, you've got a normal Golden Crown as well, and you've got your control artifact with Ruyi Scepter. I can't fault this. I think it's completely fine. I really like the fact you've got Melodic Strings here, and he's crit attack, which is really good. You've built him aggressively, you've given him Control Purify. What's not to love? Sometimes you can switch Unbending Will to Balance Strike if you want a little bit more bite, but apart from that, he looks pretty sweet. You've got crit. I don't really like this. I'd rather this was another damage stat. You've got crit damage, and you've got holy damage. So what I would do here is I would make this precision. I'd consider making it block if I had Ailamak on here, but you're not going to be building Ailamak for some time. And generally, this will hopefully turn into a very powerful account. It's just really weird at the moment. It's classic early game nonsense where people are trying to force out Transcendence heroes when they can't really do it, and it results in an account where, to quote him, his Aspen's not really doing as much as he thought it would do, and that's completely fine. But this is a Giant Killer Defier hero. Hopefully you'll get some progress out of it. He's got a really good armor break stat, and all in all, he feels dead good. The only thing I don't like is the fact that your crit damage is well over what it needs to be. 158.8%. Add Phoenix to that and it's 178. You know the max you can do on this is 150, right? So this feels a little too high. And you don't know how to fix that? Well, generally, you don't really have an option apart from maybe taking crit damage down to skill damage or armor break or something. So you could remove this, go for armor break instead. But then you're left with not enough crit damage. So what I'd actually do here is I'd run a Rogan. I'd do this, and I'd run a Rogan. That way you've got 100% armor break, a decent crit score, and then your crit damage is 138% with a Rogan. And you say, funny story, don't tell me you had a Rogan and you fed him. You did? Oh, if you ever want to avoid putting way too much crit damage on a hero, and you notice that dropping crit damage off them gives them slightly not enough, Rogan is the solution to this. He gives 20% crit damage bonus for 2 rounds, and if you decide to go ahead and give him void improvements, that becomes 25% crit damage. And it takes you up to 150%. What's the maximum crit damage? Yeah, it's 150%. So you could run 2 9-star Rogans just to give yourself a little bit of a top-up on your Aspen. And that would then mean that you don't have to worry about the other stuff. And that would be a really good account, because then you can prioritize having 100% armor break, and that's really, really strong. So, that's a shame. And he should have gone Bunny on the Moon instead of crit damage. No, I think what he needs is more crit damage from Encapsulated Memories, so he can remove crit damage from his Aspen altogether. So, you're going to be in a bit of a funny spot until you finish off your Encapsulated Memories, but once that gives you a full 50% crit damage, you're going to be absolutely glorious. And that then gets rid of your problem of needing to run stuff like Rogan. So you're just on your journey to being a little bit better. So fingers crossed, mate, you can go ahead and fix this. And I think it's what is nothing more than just a transitional blip. But obviously the things we discussed today, early building a queen, feeding dark heroes for some insane reason. Can we just comment the fact he has no light heroes as well? So I bet you he fed a light 10-star. There is definitely a chance that happened. Yes, Asmodel. Oh boy. Please do not feed light and dark heroes. That is a public service announcement. It's almost as bad as using transcending spheres for crystals of transcendence. In fact, let me know in the comment section below, what is worse, being a cop man or feeding light and dark heroes when you're in the early game? I am genuinely curious. So folks, hopefully you learned something today. Hopefully this account has not scarred you as much as it could have done. But obviously, there are mistakes at bay. Even people who are VIP 7 with giant killer heroes make mistakes, and there are always ways to improve. So hopefully you learned something. I'll see you next time. Hit that subscribe button for more account reviews like this. I'll see you in the next one. And of course, have a good week, and happy idling.